You go ahead and stay right where you are.
Hold it, sir. Hold it, hold it. Nobody's eating. They're just staring at each other. What do you got in the truck?
I got him. Whatever you want.
Back when Yellowstone was on the air and had not concluded, they sported some, you might say they revived classic Western or workwear on the show. I was confronted with that when I saw the character, Casey Dutton, wear a really cool wax jacket. And that wax jacket was made by Freenote cloth. It's an American company. The jacket is at least sewn in the USA if it doesn't source its product from elsewhere. The rider's jacket that Casey Dutton wore had a blanket interior. It had 10 ounces of waxed canvas, and it was, of course, assembled in the USA. The problem, of course, was that this jacket really isn't for workwear. It's more stylish. And while you could use it for workwear, I highly doubt anybody is going to drop $450 on a jacket and then take it to work. The one thing cool about wax jackets is that they repel the elements, especially rain. Whereas canvas will soak up some of the stuff that comes in from the sky, the wax jacket will repel it, and that makes them a little bit stiff. But the styling has always been very cool. And also, it harkens back to an older time in America, the late 19th century and the early 20th century, when men wore these things all the time, especially out west. But Casey Dutton wasn't the only one who had a wax jacket, and he wasn't the only one who had a cool jacket from Freenote cloth. Rip, the character Rip, also had one from Filson. Now, Filson is a storied company in the United States. They go back all the way to the late 1800s. Teddy Roosevelt wrote one of the historians there who also kept a journal of the history of the West. Filson was an interesting company. They made certain clothes, rugged clothes, and they also published a historical journal. Very cool. However, the Filson jacket that Rip wore was a waxed short line tin cloth. Again, very rugged and very cool, but also a little more affordable. However, I'm not sure that you'd really want to wear that jacket either for work purposes because it's $350. The problem with Filson also has been that though they were an entirely American company and they go back in history far, they are increasingly exporting jobs while increasing their prices, and they're making their garments from abroad. This has been an ongoing problem with Filson, that they are decreasing their overhead but increasing their prices. That doesn't mean that Freenote cloth or Filson don't have things really worthy of picking up, but you really have to plan, maybe hit the sales. And really, if you get anything from Freenote cloth and Filson, at least on the expensive side, they do have some affordable stuff, especially at Filson, then you know what? You're going to have to really pick and choose what you're going to wear on the job site. So the more expensive stuff, people usually do not. So these are boutique items, I would say. However, I would love to have one of those rider's jackets from Freenote cloth. And for that matter, the short line tin cloth from Filson would be very cool. One of the Filson products, by the way, that people usually pick up historically have been the Mackinaw cloth jacket. It's really a wool jacket, But for $550 and rising, I'm not so sure that that's a really viable choice. So what are the options? When I was looking around at trying to find workwear, finding something affordable that is also pleasing to the eye is a pretty difficult process. Nothing really jumps out at you. But I have about 9 or so that I initially found in my search. Of course, the Mac Daddy of them all is Carhartt. Carhartt has been around for a very long time, but they have the similar problem that Filson is having in that they are exporting their jobs and importing their goods. That's not true for everything they sell. And it is especially true, I think, that they have more product as compared to Filson that are USA at least sewn or even all originated. If made in the USA is an issue for you, then you can't go wrong by finding something at Carhartt. I would say that there are a few things at Carhartt that have decreased in quality, but their stuff, generally speaking, and I do mean generally speaking, is of high quality, and the price is not going to knock you in the dirt like at a Filson. Dickies is also an important company that I would recommend you look at. Duluth Trading, of course, is they have the funniest commercials, and they're pretty much in your face about their rugged wear. Like, these are for men. And you're not going to break them apart like you would, say, something cheap from Walmart. Duluth Trading has some USA-made stuff, but they import quality-made materials, and they're passing on the savings to you. Now, Duluth and Dickies are still on the high-end side, along with Carhartt, but there are other options that maybe you should look at. Dry Duck is another one. They're pretty affordable. I found a place called Key. Both Dry Duck and Key are USA companies. Cornerstone is a new company that's on the block, and I recommend you check them out. The problem with Cornerstone is, unlike Filson, Freenote, Carhartt, Dickies, and Duluth, and Dry Duck and Key, who all will sell to you direct from their website, Cornerstone doesn't do that. So you're going to have to shop around to find people who carry their products. Burn also carries a direct line, and they're affordable, and they're worth your attention. Of course, if you really want to check stuff out, and I mean, you could pretty much go there today and find a store near you, Tractor Supply. Tractor Supply carries a couple of their own in-house brands. The first one is Ridgecut. Ridgecut's pretty affordable, but it's the higher end of their lower end line, Blue Mountain. And you'll find, especially on sales, you can scoop up Ridgecut and Blue Mountain for very, very little. I'll say more about that later. I would also say that in Tractor Supply, they carry Carhartt. So you could find stuff on sale at Tractor Supply that you can't at Carhartt's website proper. Although I will say one thing about Carhartt, and it's the only company I found that does this. Carhartt has a reworked site. So this is basically, they recycle some of their products. People who return stuff, or they wear it for a while and then sell it back to the company. If it's in good shape, Carhartt will resell those at up to 50% off. And so Carhartt's rework site is essential, I would say, that a company that you need to look into. Not only the new stuff, but definitely check out their reworked site, and you might be able to scoop something up for very little. And then the last thing I found was Troll Company, or as the folks say, Trollco. Trollco is an in-your-face, very aggressive, branded company that supports the trades. And I'll go through some of that stuff a little bit later. I actually love the brand in terms of their branding, but I'm not so sure that they have an affordable quality that some of the others that I mentioned do. Now, there are going to be others that I mention at the end of this little podcast or episode, And I'm going to note those at the end and how I found them. I initially believed that our options aren't or weren't plentiful. And the reason why I started to do this, by the way, was because I was working in the garage a lot. I started working on restorations of cars. And then, of course, I've got this issue with the Homestead where I'm going to be working outside a lot. The only thing I really had in my closet, it's almost embarrassing. The only thing I really had in my closet were suits. And that's pretty much it because, I worked in a white-collar job for many decades. However, in my youth, as many people who follow along with my Substack in particular, as many of those people know, I was raised on a farm. So at one point, that's all I ever had. That's all I had was workwear. But the options today aren't as plentiful, I would say, as they were in the past. And part of that is because companies like Levi's, for example, who used to be the go-to workwear denim jeans, they just aren't up to the quality that they used to be. You might say that, and this has affected Filson, by the way, that globalism has decreased quality and increased prices. Filson definitely is representative of that, and so is Levi's. So really, I initially found that finding affordable options was very limited. You really have to dig, though. On my second look, I could increase on the 9 or 10 companies that I mentioned already to find some good quality workwear. So where does one begin? That's the big question. If you're into this for the first time and you're like, okay, that's it, we got to get out of the city or whatever, our small piece of property, and start homesteading, or maybe you're going to change careers and become an HVAC guy, an electrician, a plumber, whatever, start raising chickens, whatever, you're going to want to find clothing that is not only affordable, but also high quality. And if you're looking for stuff made in the USA, it can be found. And it can be found reliably, and it can be found with reliable quality, but also affordable. But you really have to hunt for it. It's not going to be immediately evident in any general web search online, no matter what browser you're using, or not what browser, but what search engine you're using, Google, Ecosia, Yandex, whatever you're using. These things you really have to dig for them, and you really have to know where to go. So that's what this podcast is about. One, what kind of workwear is good and affordable, and I also may throw in some cool in there. Like, for example, how I began this with Casey Dutton's Free Note cloth jacket. That writer's jacket is supreme. Or Filson's jacket, short line tin cloth jacket, which is also, it is impeccable. Both of them. But for over $300, and in some cases over $500, probably not what you're going to wear every day if you're doing chores. There are options for workwear for anyone, I would say, people who want to get their hands dirty or have to get their hands dirty, from the farmer, the professional farmer, to the weekend knock around in your backyard or backyard mechanic kind of guy. And so let's start on that, shall we? We'll start with some of the stuff that I found that I bought and how I bought them. And then we'll move on to these other companies, actually, that were mentioned to me by a certain person who I will definitely give all the credit to. And I'll maybe give you some links to them, certainly in the description. Okay? Let's get to it. Let's get at her. Pitter patter.
No, man, that's all right for my friend Wayne. Celebrate good times, baby, come on. Sold.
This is a fucking outrage. You're out of order. It wasn't motioned. It's not the right way. There wasn't a motion.
Well, you're about to find out how hard this job really is. You're in the hot seat now, big boy. You're just fucking piping hot.
Like 1,500 goddamn watts.
I don't fucking want her.
Anything pressing? Back to chorin'.